Welcome to Rainbow Soulstrology, a weekly podcast presented by Brighthawk and Hollis Taylor. Together, we lay out the weekly astrology in an accessible, inclusive, candid, and insightful way, and what it means for you. Hollis is amazing. They're a seasoned astrologer and psychic medium. I'm a musician, artist, and storyteller. We love to make the cosmos relatable, which is why we begin by tuning in with a guided meditation, helping all of us ground and center and feel the planetary energies of the week more deeply. Then we dive into this week's astrological forecast, answer your questions, and then look at the horoscopes for all the signs for the week. Whether you're brand new to astrology or you've been following the stars for years, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to Rainbow Soulstrology. Let's get centered, take a breath, and explore what the universe has in store for us.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to Rainbow Soulstrology Forecasts. I'm glad you're here. And we are going to be, I'm Hollis Taylor. I'm one of the astrologers today. And we'll be talking about this week's forecast. Hey, Brandy.
Hi there. I'm Brighthawk. And you can always learn more about me at Brighthawk Productions. I'm an artist, a musician, a storyteller, and always happy to be here at Rainbow Soulstrology on Monday evenings.
All right, well, we have a big week in front of us. I'm interested to see what happens this week. It has very interesting astrology for the week. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. I want to invite you to ground and center. I'm assuming you all can hear the music. Hopefully you can hear it. Let us know if you can't. And we're going to just take this moment to ground ourselves so that we can be open to the messages of the stars. So get yourself comfortable in your seat. And take a few deep breaths. Your center and just allow whatever's happened today, just allow it to go, allow it to move on, allow it to be behind you. And I invite you to lie down on the ground in your mind. Imagine yourself lying down on a beautiful summer night. And you can just take in the beautiful sky. And then you notice the moon. It's full and beaming down on you like a huge light in the sky, lighting up most of the sky. It feels like it's kind of moved a little bit closer to you. in its fullness. And as you allow the moon's beams to shine down on you, you are reminded of our connection to the waters, to the earth, and to the moon itself. And you are reminded that we are all connected to all things. And that all living beings are under the same moon. Everyone all over the world, in all places, even the astronauts. We are all looking at the same moon. And its energies affect us, just like they affect the tides. That push and pull and the gravity of our earth, pushing and pulling the waters, the same way the moon pushes and pulls on you. And in this moment, I invite you to give one thing to the full moon that you would like to let go of. Release it there. Just see that moving out of you. And feel the moon's energies just pull it up. Pulling it out of you as this energetic ball that comes from within you. And you allow it just release it. And I invite you to feel a little lighter. And as you let the moon take that away for you, back into yourself in the here and now, feeling your bottom on the seat, feeling your legs and your feet and your hands. Maybe you could feel light enough for a little smile. And as you come back into the present, into this moment, wiggle your fingers and your toes, open your eyes, and become present and join us for Rainbow Soul Vodcast. Thanks, Bright Hawk.
Thank you.
It's always beautiful music to watch the moon to, right?
Yeah.
Especially, man, this week. And it sounds like the moon is going to be active, inactive, active type of situation. So
Yeah,
I
we have
figured,
some really big void of course moons. You'll see when you get to the charts. But
yeah,
wow.
we're going to have some big events this week, you guys.
Some that are just a couple hours, but some that are like 20, whatever,
And
26
we have
hours.
sort of like one big transit sort of being with us most of the week, but we'll talk about the moon and how it might influence that all week. Okay. So as we get into this week's forecast,
August 4th to the 10th.
yeah, sorry,
Monday
August
night
4th to the 10th.
Sunday night. And
yeah,
of course, we do the charts for Boulder, Colorado, because that's where we live. So it's mountain time.
Mm-hmm. So, and I just want to give a shout out to Alyssa.
Oh, hey there.
Thanks for tuning in, Alyssa. It's great to see you. And hi, Michelle.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome.
Morning.
Alyssa,
That's
great
funny.
to see you.
I think you're in Australia. I think
Must
you
be.
told us before. It's awesome.
All right.
I love it.
And oh, let me just turn that off. And okay, so as we get into this, I want to invite you to to first realize that this is, pretty much already started today. And I think we know, well, almost started because so right now the sun is in Leo. Hopefully you experienced the Kazemi last week. So hopefully either someone delivered a message to you or you heard it or got the download somehow. Maybe you were meditating or something else. I know I delivered so many messages. I seem to be really busy. I was really busy on the day before, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I was really busy. I had like 3-4 readings each day, and I was just doing everything I could. And every single one of them got some sort of insight message or something that they really needed. And I think that I was like, so now I'm delivering the messages. But that's how it happens sometimes. And I am a Virgo, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury was transiting the sun. So hopefully you at least know what direction you're going at this point. Mars has helped you find, Mercury's helped you find your direction. The sun has is shining the light in the way that you need to go, and that's the sun in Leo. Leo season, it's loud and big, right? So, and of course, we already have Uranus in Gemini, and that's been going on for a couple weeks now. Jupiter and Venus are transiting Cancer right now. So that's actually a lot of blessings to anyone with Cancer placements. There's blessings coming your way. So make sure you are, available for those blessings.
Right. That's the trick, isn't it? Doing the work and then the blessings come. If you're not doing the work, I don't know how the blessings come. So, one of the things that you can see pretty quickly when you look at the start chart and you look at the lines in the center is that, wow, it looks like a kite, doesn't it? And you've seen that minor trine all month, last month, this month, because Pluto and Uranus are such slow movers. That's not going to change really soon. Everybody's hanging out there at 0 degrees, 1 degrees. So that trine is just going to hang.
That's that small triangle at the bottom of the circle chart. You can kind of see it at the bottom of it. There's Saturn that kind of looks like an H, and Neptune that kind of looks like a fork. It has 3 sort of points pointing upwards. And then on either side, one side is Pluto, which is red because it's retrograde in Aquarius. And Uranus is over there in Gemini. And it kind of looks like a blue, like it has moons on each side of it, and it's in Gemini, which is that like Roman number 2. And so you can kind of see that small triangle on one side, and that's what Bright Hawk's talking about. That's the minor trine.
Yeah. And all week, Saturn and Neptune are not particularly fast movers, especially when they're retrograde. So they're hanging out at 1 degree in Aries, going retrograde, but so slowly. They're dancing close together. So what does that mean? Saturn is father, authority, structure, purpose, get it done, asks the hard questions, demands that you step up. And Neptune is dreamy and delusional. Think about how clear you see underwater or hear underwater, not very well. So when you put a wet water Neptune in fiery Aries and Saturn, very structured. Aries, of course, is ruled by Mars, and it's directly opposite. So that's in a very intense, tense situation there. But the beautiful thing is that you have this big trine, that big triangle, the rest of the kite, right? You have this big, beautiful trine energy, which is mostly in air. So while on the one hand, the Saturn-Neptune opposite Mars is concerning, the fact that it's all in a trine and in a kite and meant to lift us all up, help us realize our visions and take action towards them in a good way, this can be a real positive thing.
And I think you'll really feel that opposition when Mars moves over into Libra.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually Wednesday, right?
It's coming up.
Yeah. So I feel like, today things are starting to happen. So we're sort of starting getting a preview of what that conflict might be about. We're already seeing it in the news,
right,
with the Democrats in Texas, sort of trying, I don't know, there's some sort of thing going on there that sounds like political. It sounds like, to me, it really, all of the conflict that we've seen numerous times in our politics with the, people speaking for hours and hours and hours, and all of the sort of I'm going to call it old-fashioned political moves, but I don't know that it's old-fashioned, but I know that it's been happening for hundreds of years. And so, but there's very much a split in our party, obviously. And I think with Saturn and Neptune going backwards like that, I think that they're really going to speak to the illusions. Like, I really think that Neptune in Aries is not comfortable there. It doesn't like the position, and now it's going backwards. So this is also about delusions, lies,
not seeing things clearly.
And I think because Saturn is traveling with it, that's why we're seeing it in the system. And so if you have something else going on too, like if you're dealing with schools or you're dealing with the system's probably not going to see things quite the way maybe they really are. Okay. But I think it will all come together in a good way in the end. Like, I think there could be some conflict, and I think that conflict that will happen later this week will kind of sort of trigger certain things to be revealed and certain things to happen, especially in regards to our system, to our government, but also like in your life. It could have something to do with your dealings of the system. It could have something to do with how things are handled, or like, if you like, I'm just thinking about like people trying to send their kids back to school and people gearing up for that kind of thing. And also people dealing with the system for some reason. And then of course there's like, other issues, like,
and the horrible stories we just constantly keep hearing about, people trying to do the right thing, go to their immigration appointment, and all of a sudden they're arrested and put in jail, and terrible things are happening to people. The thing that concerns me about Tuesday, I like to talk about the moon, as you know, and the moon is in Capricorn, okay, on Tuesday. So when the moon is in Capricorn, it's going to answer to Saturn. It's in a square to Saturn at retrograde and Neptune. So that's not a very comfortable place to be. That means that emotionally speaking, you're going to be challenged to make a decision that's not comfortable. And it's directly, and so the moon is directly opposite Venus. And so oppositions are uncomfortable. So you have Venus sitting in Cancer, and you have the moon on the world point. It's 0 degrees Capricorn, which means when we say a world point, it means everyone's going to see it, or there'll be big world news that impacts everyone. We've seen that happen numerous times. We know with Pluto involved, Pluto can definitely bring the earthquakes and the tsunamis and the volcanic stuff, all things underground. And if those underground things get revealed, oh boy, it can be a lot, right? So,
and Aquarius rules water and air, so that makes me think about storms and that kind of thing. I think we're entering hurricane season and things like that.
Right. We already had tsunami warnings last week. Was it last week? Yeah, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
From the earthquake in Russia and stuff. So the other thing I want to say, so remember, those of you who have big Cancer placements, sun, moon, or rising, you're ruled by the moon. The moon is doing some big stuff this week. So I've talked about the moon square Saturn, opposite Venus. It's also chilling out because it goes void from 3:30 in the afternoon. But this time it's only like a 90-minute void. So if you have a chance to take a break on Tuesday evening, remember this is Mountain Time, so adjust for whatever it is for you. This would be, which would be around this time, right? This would be a time to take a break, because when the moon is void, that's when the energy simmers down. So that's what gives me hope, that we have some kind of intense moons, but we have some really big voids too. This one's a small one, but you'll see. We're coming up to them.
Okay. And it looks like Wednesday is when Mars actually moves into Libra.
Exactly.
And that's when the sort of the opposition will really get strong, because we have to think about what is Mars in Libra. Well, first of all, Libra is about relationships. And it's all relationships, including things that are in relationship to each other. And so when you think about Libra, you should think about the scales. And that's why we say it's in relation to others, because it also has a lot to do with fairness and justice. So, and Mars there is not really comfortable. It's actually in its fall, because normally Venus is the ruler of Libra. And frankly, it's almost in a square to that Mars, okay? And it will come into a square next week. But with Mars in 0 degree Libra like that, it's directly across from its opposition, which is Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And as you can see, it's sort of part of that kite. You can kind of see a kite there, right? And it's like this big red line in the middle of it. And I feel like that's going to be a major conflict, and it's going to have something to do with justice. So like when you think, like, Libra avoids conflict at all costs and tries to not have conflict. But if you corner a Libra enough, they'll come out swinging.
If it's something unfair, if there's something not right. I was surprised. We were listening to something that was telling us a lot about Libra. And they were saying that a lot of military leaders have Libra because they are driven to do what is right, what is fair, what is, upstanding, right? That's the vibe. When I think of Libra, I think of the Egyptian goddess Ma'at, where there is this very high vibe, noble, boy, you want to do the best you can to like meet that energy. And that's why Libra is represented by the scales and why it's associated to justice.
And my concern is that, so first of all, we have Mars there, and Mars is the ruler of Aries. So it's actually the ruler. So Saturn and Neptune are over there in Aries. They're completely opposite, and they're kind of speaking to that Mars there, which it is about this. This isn't fair. It's like conflict because it's not fair. And with the ruler of Libra being in Cancer, that tells me it's going to have a lot to do with what's fair and what's not fair at home. And if there could be some sort of conflict about like patriotism or what's right to do in your home, what's fair in your home and what's not fair. Those kinds of things are really, really sort of going to be the theme, because Venus is over there in Cancer, and eventually that Mars will come into a square with it next week. And so I think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to watch some crap unfold, probably with with the United States government. There'll probably be some unfair BS. And the system, hopefully there will be enough people fighting against that. And they'll, I think that there will be some sort of, I wouldn't be surprised to see protests by the end of the week. I mean, really. But when are the void moons?
So then we have this really big void moon. It means that all of the evening of the 6th, all of the 7th, and just after midnight on the 8th at 1:20 a.m., it goes back. It's no longer void.
So everything's just going to kind of simmer.
So it's kind of wild because we're headed into this full moon. The full moon happens on the weekend. Full moon in Aquarius, which is really intense. And you have this void, which means I think this is going to be a void where it's a wet blanket kind of void. I really do, because
it's in Cap? You think that? I mean, it's in Capricorn.
Because it's going to conjunct Pluto in just a little bit. And I just don't think that's going to be very comfortable. And just as it comes out of the void, all the dials back on in the moon, and then it hits the height of the full moon.
That's what I was hearing you say earlier.
I just feel like you're going to go from this low,
it's just going to take off.
I hope I'm wrong, but that's the vibe I get. And that Pluto Mercury opposition, Mercury is all about communication. Pluto, as we know, and Mercury are both retrograde, which is challenging for a lot of people. Mercury will go out, station at next week, early next week, and then start going direct.
And I think this is part of like the bigger story of what we've been seeing. So first Mars was on the South Node, and we had the whole Jeffrey Epstein files and all of that crap
coming out of the closet.
And there was all this crap from the past coming up. And now there are more and more people that are sort of questioning Donald Trump, thank God. And then as Mars moves out of Virgo and moves into Libra, it's sort of this isn't fair energy. And it's in opposition with a Neptune, which is about lies. But it also means that those lies are not so covered up. Okay. Because if Mars is opposite, Mars is going to kind of pull on it towards fairness and say, oh, no, you don't. And so I wouldn't be surprised if some more things were revealed. I think we had some reveals last week. I'm pretty sure we had it on Thursday during the Kazemi. There were like sort of things discovered about the files and blah, blah, that kind of mess. And then as we go on, I think this is like just sort of amping up the energy of the United States, particularly, we are in our Pluto returns. This is a long transit, last year's. And I do believe that, we're going through major changes, right? So our country and our government is going through major changes if you happen to be an American. And even if you're not an American, you're still affected by American politics, unfortunately, because America is sort of like the narcissistic country of the world. And so,
sorry.
And so with the Capricorn moon there, I feel like the Capricorn moon is, of course, speaking to Saturn, which is retrograde at the tip of that kite. And it's saying, is this really what you want? And with Pluto opposite Mercury, especially as they come as this whole, all of these oppositions perfect as we get closer to the weekend, I think it's just going to I think it's going to be like a pot on the stove, Bright Hawk. I think the void moon is going to be oh my gosh, apparently the universe agrees. I think it's going to be a pot on the stove, meaning it's like you have this pot on the stove full of all these pieces, parts that most of us don't sit comfortable with, like the Epstein files and other things that have happened in our government since January. And those things have all been kind of thrown into this pot, and this pot's just kind of brewing, and it's coming up. And I think what's going to happen is by the time we get to, so the void, of course, day is all day Thursday. So then the pot's just sitting there simmering. And then as it moves into Aquarius on Friday, I feel like there's going to be an explosion. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised to see protests. I wouldn't be surprised to see huge protest, massive opposition to what's happening, massive conflict. I'm not sure about those conflicts. I mean, some people are going to be on the front lines. That's just who they are. And that's the one thing I've learned in all of my participation in protests over the years, is that some people are just drawn to being in that front line. I wouldn't recommend it if that's not your calling. If it's your calling, do what you got to do. Don't let me get in the way. But I feel like sometimes the front lines, those people are just, and oftentimes they probably have strong Aries placements.
Yeah, this is a bit, you see how dark the lines are. The darker the lines, the more precise the transit. And so you see, this is where everything's 1 degree, and that Mars, Saturn, Neptune opposition is very intense. Especially as when the moon comes back online, which is later that night. So again, if you work graveyard, Thursday night, void. It's going to be a void moon, period. All day Friday. But then
all day Thursday. And then Friday morning, it will be gone. When we get up at 1:20 a.m.
Sorry. Thank you. Because now then the moon starts to line up perfectly for its full moon. And now you have maximum intensity. The moon is at its maximum intensity in its fullness, period.
And I think that's why I tried to let the meditation remind us that we are connected to the moon. We are connected not only to the moon, but to each other. And I think that that's an important thing to remember. No matter what you deal with this week, I'm pretty sure you're going to probably have some sort of conflict with some sort of system. I mean, that's just going to be the way it is right now. And I think that the conflict with the system could become difficult, but I think overall in the end, like, it could be hard initially, like watching it, but in a week or two we'll be like, I am so glad that happened because it led to this, because everything's in a trine. So yeah, while Mars is opposite, Saturn and
Yeah.
Neptune, that retrograde pattern that they're in.
Yeah.
And it's saying, review this. Is this really what you want? And there's conflict being created because this isn't what you want. And it could very well be about your system at home, your personal system. Where is Aries in your chart? Take a look at that and take a look where Aries Libra axis is. And that's probably where the conflict's going to happen. And then it's going to be in a trine, though. It's going to, everything else other than the opposition is in a trine. So I feel like it's going to come together easily. Yes. And Uranus is direct. It's trying to put us on the right path. It's trying to kick us over onto the right path, push us in the right direction. And Pluto, I believe Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is often making us like sort of visit power and control in regards to the collective.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are having problems all over the world about power and control, not just Donald Trump, but lots of other people too, right? Like lots of other leaders are dealing with that. Lots of other countries are dealing with that. And maybe you're dealing with that in your home. Maybe you're dealing with that in your local neighborhood. Maybe you're dealing with that at work. Okay. Like look where Aquarius is and recognize that Pluto is making a very slow transit through Aquarius. And so it could just change the way things are for you. It could change your community. It could change, your home. It just depends on where Aquarius is. And it's in the early degrees right now. It's only in 2-3 degrees and it'd be there a while. It takes like 20 years to get through a sign. It's a slow process, but I feel like the happenings this week will contribute to that. They'll sort of contribute to that Pluto in Aquarius. And while the moon is there, I feel like that's going to add a lot of emotion and energy pushing on that from the outskirts, from the trines are going to try to push that kite in a really good way.
Yeah, the part that I like about it is that you have Uranus in great aspects. So I always hope that's going to be delightful surprises. And if you ask, and if you say, my little meme, I'm willing to be delightfully surprised by how sweet this life can be.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get what you expect and work towards that. But I think we've made the point there about that opposition. It's kind of intense.
Well, look at this. Alyssa said, "Oh, I got a couple of messages I needed for sure to bring super loud and clear." That's great, Alyssa.
Good.
Great job, that Kazemi, right? Alyssa said, "I'll be glad when Uranus gets out of my moon sign." Yeah, 8 years from now, Alyssa.
Goodness.
Don't worry. It's a slow process and you feel it mostly when it comes in and goes out, or if it goes retrograde or direct. So just, once it gets going in one direction for a little bit, a degree or two, you don't notice it so much. Trust me, it's in my 8th house. So I'm not real happy about it either, Alyssa. So I totally get it. Okay. And Alyssa said, so interesting you say something about lies and discovering miscommunication and revealing things. That's been spot on just in the last couple of days and with back to school starting on Wednesday too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's that Neptune Saturn sort of traveling together, because Saturn and Neptune retrograde will reveal the lies that have already come up, right? Okay. And it's going to go back all the way into Pisces this winter. So, and when Neptune is in Pisces, it's in its rulership. It will go retrograde into Pisces and then turn around and go direct. And those lies will continue to unfold in its retrograde pattern. When it's going forward in Pisces, it'll probably be more about visionary and visions and what we should be doing. And then when it gets into Aries, it could get a little distorted. But as long as it's going forward, those distortions could be necessary, especially if they're about conflict or something like that, because Aries typically rules conflict. Bianca said, the full moon in Aquarius. What could this mean for Aquarius moons? Oh, man.
Well, we all get one a year, your moon. It tends to amplify, and because it's what you were born with, it'll feel familiar. And so what you want to pay attention to is the aspects that we've been talking about, and the fact that the moon goes right over Pluto and then And because Pluto's in Aquarius, and we've been talking about how Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and it's in a sextile to Uranus, or is it in a trine?
It's actually in a trine.
Sorry. So that's really good. That's where I'm looking for those delightful surprises, because Uranus is a surprise a minute, right? And so, it could be a little on the and the other thing I want to say is that this is the full moon. The next full moon we have, I think it's September 7th, will be a total lunar eclipse. I was going to add a slide like upcoming when Mercury leaves retrograde and goes stationary and then direct. And then, we have eclipses coming up September 7th. And then 2 weeks later would be the lunar and the solar. And then, which of course these impact the nodes. We could talk more about that when we get closer. And then, of course, next week we have Mercury leaving. It'll slow down and go stationary and then go direct.
So I was just thinking about Bianca's full moon in Aquarius. And then Alyssa said, oh, my sweet rebellious daughter, Aquarius sun, Cancer moon, Gemini rising. Boy, she is rebellious. And it being her first week back to school, I'm hoping we can work with these transitions. What I would actually, Alyssa, just know that any conflicts that comes up is for her best interest. So that's like sometimes hard thing for parents. Like sometimes I think they see the conflict and they want to resolve the conflict, but sometimes conflict is necessary for young people to learn. And so I wouldn't worry about that too much. But with Bianca saying about the full moon in Aquarius and Alyssa, your daughter with Aquarius sun, they might just have a feeling of intensity, but I think they might have a hard time sort of speaking it because Mercury is in retrograde, unless they happen to have Mercury in retrograde.
Remember, one of the characteristics of Aquarius is feeling separate. They're special, they're unique, they're different. I'm so weird because you're ruled by the weird planet Uranus. So that's part of school at the beginning, isn't it? Everybody's weird. Everybody's awkward. Everybody's
right.
I don't want to be here. I don't, maybe some people are, let's go. But I think there's a lot of awkwardness and anxiety, and Aquarians are definitely revolutionaries. And the thing that Hollis is always saying is give them a good job. So your job as an Aquarian is to be a humanitarian, to introduce new ideas, different ways of doing things that might be better in your opinion, but test your theories. And Aquarius is really about being separate. So sometimes you just have to let them be separate, have their alone time, have their special time.
Let them feel separate for a while. It's okay. It's part of the journey of an Aquarius.
Yeah, for sure.
And Bianca asked, why is the void moon called the void of course moon?
I, for real, thought that was just the way you guys said it. I know. I heard that. I heard it the exact same way for a really long time. Same thing happened to us. Void of course. And I didn't know I didn't know it was like, that's what you call it. Some people will say just the void moon, but that's what the whole title is. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look it up, to be perfectly honest. I have learned it at some point. I don't remember exactly. But what we understand the void to be is when the moon is switching signs. And of course, it's switching elements. That's the biggest part of it, right? Going from an earth element, Capricorn, to an air element, Aquarius. Going from an air element, Aquarius, into a water sign, Pisces. These are really big changes. So there's this void moment that happens. And there are specific definitions about the void of course moon you can look up. And I highly recommend, there's a void of course moon calendar. And you put in your time zone and location, and it will calculate the void of course moons for your area, your time. And then you can see. And so sometimes we've noticed, you just feel really chill. Like, I need to take a break right now. And sometimes Hollis has felt like, oh my God, I am trying to finish this whatever. Why do I feel like I have a wet blanket on me and I cannot finish my thought? Oh, it's a void. Sometimes the void literally makes you take a break because you have no other choice. You're like, wow, I can't hold a thought in my head to save myself.
Well, my Saturn's in the top of the sky, so I tend to work. I like to work, and I think that I try to push through or something. Like I think I'm going to get away with it or something. Like I'm special or something.
Yeah. So beware. The 7th is a void all day. So please let us know. How did it go for you?
I'm currently thinking about blocking out my calendar that day. Okay.
Oh, we're doing Let's Dance all day.
Oh my gosh, we are. Okay.
Well, that's probably good because we're of service. We're, presenting. So
yeah. Hi, Annie. Much. Good to have you with us today. I'm glad you're here. And so, I think most of the drama, I think we're going to have that boiling pot on the stove all week. And then I think it's going to boil over Friday, Saturday. I think that's when you're going to have the bubbles pop it out and you're going to see stuff. And we could have huge protests. You could have something come home from the kid on Friday from their first week at school or something like that, Alyssa, Alyssa said it's definitely hard from a parent standpoint, especially when the conflicts she faces are always so big. I think it's because she fights being so different from her peers.
Yeah.
I know it's helping, but still, yeah, it's just kind of it's kind of the Aquarian
we both just
journey.
Got hiccups. Oh my God.
It's kind of the Aquarian journey, I would say, Alyssa. And then one of the things that I think is really important is that we recognize, I think with children, that they're in a process of change and that they don't come out like perfect little made people. You have to make them into something, and you have to, and you're not even completely forming the clay. All kinds of people got their fingers all up in there. Okay. And so this is like teachers at school and the system and the culture and your neighbor and your grandparents. And, there's all kinds of people that are influencing that child all the time. And I think what's important is that when you study a child's astrology chart, that you recognize what their shadow pieces could be, how they might express those shadow pieces, why they might do some of the things they do, and what's the best way to handle it. And maybe there could be some things that they do, like, for instance, Alyssa, you're talking about the way your daughter always is in conflict, but part of that is because Aquarius needs to be in conflict to some degree. They need to feel separate in order to become the leaders they are meant to be, in order to later say, well, if we all want to feel part of, if we all want to be part of this group, and that's her job. And so the best thing you could do is distract her into human rights. I would just be putting everything about human rights in front of her. I don't know how old she is. My granddaughter has a lot of Aries, so I've got her involved in the Roots and Shoots program, which is with Jane Goodall, which is really good for helping build tomorrow's leaders. And it's really good for helping, and you could just work through that process maybe with her. Maybe she'll take some interest in it as well, on her own. And this means that she has to stand up and be a warrior. This means that she's going to take on a project. This means that, the Aquarian is going to step forward and bring change in the world, so prepare her for that, and help her learn how to deal with conflict, teach her nonviolent communication, teach her how to deal with conflict. That's like the best thing you could do, I think, for her. And, I do sort of children or youth. I've done teenage astrology charts with their parent in the room. It's fine. As long as the parent is in the room, I'll do the reading. And I honestly think that every teenager, at some point, every youth should know their astrology. They should know. My granddaughter knows that she has 4 planets in Aries, and wow, so does Jane Goodall. Okay, so that's why I'm aiming her in that direction. So don't be afraid to do that kind of thing, to literally look at her chart and be like, okay, you're an Aquarius sun. Is the sun in any conversations with anything else? And Bianca, your Aquarius moon, think about, is the moon in conversations with anything else? Is there any lines going to it? Those lines we talk about in the astrology chart, just take a look at them. Like you can just see here, are there red lines going to it or blue lines, right? And what's the other planet that it's in a conversation with? And, is it a red line or a blue line? Usually red is some form of a challenge, but it usually leads to good places, or you have to find the balance. And then blue is a blessing. It comes together easier. The longer blue line is a trine, the shorter one is a sextile. And then there's usually green in most programs. It's a green line, and that's called inconjunct. It's almost opposite, so it's still pretty hard, but it can be resolved. Okay, so that's kind of the best way we can talk about it. And those lines mean a lot. So Bianca and Alyssa, look at the moon, look at the sun, and see what's going on outside of there.
Yeah.
And see what's going on outside of there, and see what conversation it's in and what it might trigger. Because if the moon moves on the outside of that, or Pluto moves on the outside of their sun or their moon, then that's going to like trigger that conversation. It's going to trigger that. It's going to make that happen. Okay. So Bianca said, my son who passed away shared the same moon sign and degree in a different house. Same moon.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot about how similar some of his underlying emotions and moon sign may be mine.
Wow.
Yes, Bianca. So, and I don't know if I did the death chart for you. I think I might have. And I'm just going to say that means a lot. That's a huge, that is a huge thing, Bianca, because a lot of like for instance, my moon is a Libra moon. It's on my son's sun. Okay. So like it's on his sunshine. And so that means that the way I mother will be who he presents as. Okay. Because moon is mothering. Okay.
Oh, sure.
And so it has some sort of meaning, the fact that your moons are in a similar place, just in a different house. And, I wouldn't be surprised if those houses spoke to your relationship.
Wow.
Alyssa said where she struggles a lot too, but you're absolutely right. Since I started using her natal chart as a guide, we've been able to communicate better, thankfully,
Nice.
And she's a little more receptive.
That's so
excellent.
Good.
See what I mean, Alyssa?
Yay, good job. Congratulations. Good job parenting.
Mm-hmm. I think parents become better parents when they know their kids' astrology and they work through the astrology with the kid, and then you have a better idea of how to deal with them, right? Okay. And my grandchildren, they play out their chart. Oh my gosh. And
it tells you so much about what to lean into and what to lean back from, like who not to push, how to push, when to push, all those things. It's so extraordinary. And that's one of those things where I feel like we've lost so much when people tried to push and relegate astrology into some box of weirdness and the occult, and it couldn't possibly be true. And it used to be a great guide for everyone. Started of course with royalty. Only kings and queens could afford astrologers, but eventually it became very popular, part of medicine, part of diagnosis, part of how we understand people's temperament. So many things that we've kind of turned our back on, that to our detriment. And I think young people, especially, knowing where your Saturn is and how it's aspected and what it means about what your purpose is and what you're going to be drawn towards and what yeah, you're going to be a travel bug, or no, you're going to be a homebody, or yes, you're going to be a leader, or you're going to be an athlete, or whatever it is. There's so many things you can learn in the chart. Hollis is exceptionally gifted. I'm just going to say, because it's true. Yes, I'm biased, and it's true.
Well, I will say that,
Worth
you know,
getting a reading.
that when I first started doing astrology, yeah, sure, I looked at my own natal chart, but the second thing I did was look at my son's. And I raised my son based on his astrology chart. And I'm so glad that I did, because it turned out really well. Okay. And he's a good citizen of the world. Okay. And Alyssa said, yes, about push and pull, or picking and choosing battles, so to speak, especially with us both have Gemini in our big three. Yes, absolutely, Alyssa. And maybe you guys need to have debate time. You know, maybe you need to have a time for debate and leave room for that, and try. And I would literally model it after debate. I would encourage the debate team. I would like set up a debate in the house about whatever this big thing that you're sort of arguing a lot about. I would set up a debate. I'd be like, okay, this is the third time we've argued about this. We're going to have a debate, especially with Gemini, because Gemini loves debating. And that would be make her prove her point, and it will get her to do more critical thinking, and it will maybe help you understand her side of it. Okay. And Alyssa said that her daughter's moon sign is her rising sign. And that's a very common thing in astrology, that we share, like sort of like rising signs or moon signs or something like that. Okay. So like my son is a Cancer rising, and my Saturn is in Cancer. So I was also his teacher. I homeschooled him, and Saturn represents teacher. Okay. And Cancer loves to learn, although you wouldn't have known that when he was 8. Okay. So, and Bianca said, I resonate so much with my Aquarius, my Aquarius moon. I'm just now starting to understand how much I resonate with all of my big three. Yeah. As you start to really comprehend your big three, you really start to deep dive into astrology. You start to realize how accurate it is. And then I'm often flabbergasted. I'm just kind of like surprised at how people can live without it. I'm like, how can you live without knowing your astrology? And then sometimes I'm wondering how I survived, but I did. And I'm glad that the stars are always guiding us. And I'm glad that the moon and Uranus is always trying to kick us on our path. And hopefully we just listen. I will say that my life goes a little bit smoother since I've been following my astrology. I make way less mistakes in my life. I make way less stupid decisions. In my 20s, I just made a lot of really dumb decisions. It was just really stupid. And then once I got to be 30 and I really started to really understand astrology fully, and then as I've gotten better, and since the pandemic, do you think that you make better choices now in your life, now that you've really have a good idea of what's happening astrologically?
I'd like to think so, yeah. And of course, the other piece of it is understanding when and when not to make decisions.
Right.
Because astrology can reveal so much that way. Boy, and if there was ever a cliche with astrology, this too shall pass.
Right.
Sky's always changing.
Always.
You know, everything's always changing. So it's really good to know when the transits, especially big transits, heavy duty transits like Saturn, Pluto, the outside movers have a longer impact on our lives. They have a bigger, you know, so when Uranus does something really big, or Saturn or Neptune, well, especially, you know, and if you have Pluto, you talk about it all the time, especially with death astrology. Pluto is transformation. It's death and rebirth.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily indicate somebody's death, but it can show you the window that opened. And sometimes it's the end of a life. Sometimes it's the end of a project or a job.
And that's why I always say you can't predict death with astrology, and you shouldn't try. Right. And I think the only time it would come into practicality is if someone is in hospice. Then you could probably see when the next exit point is coming up and guess that they might pass during that time. But the thing about trying to predict like a healthy person's death or a mostly healthy person's death would be that we would have a hard time seeing exactly what that change will be, exactly what will be happening in regards to that change. And, you know, I think that astrology, the universe, the cosmos, I think that they see death. I think the universe sees death as something bigger. And the universe understands that it's not just this lifetime. So it is just a big transformation to the universe. To the universe, it is just one transformation from this life to the next. And death isn't always just death. You know, like we tend to see it as the end of this life or end of, you know, so and so died, my dad died, and now I've lost him, and that's how we see it. But if we step back from that, which takes a little while, and I've learned this in my death midwifing journey, in that death is not something that we, you know, that we always experience. Yes, we lose the person, but maybe also that person has passed and maybe they have graduated. Maybe it's actually better for them. Maybe they'll be back. Maybe they get a fresh start. Maybe, you know, whatever it is, okay? And they've made a big transformation, a big change, and it's not all about you. And so like that's kind of that's kind of like what I sometimes I don't say it to people that are grieving because that's that's sort of unkind.
Yeah.
But also at the same time recognize that there's a bigger thing going on here. When someone passes away, when someone leaves this planet and transforms into a spirit, they're going to come back. So they're just gearing up for their next life. So they get a fresh start, you know, and you'll be with them next time too. We have a soul family. It doesn't end with this lifetime. Hi, Melissa. Hey, it's great to have you with us. And Bianca said, I am just now looking into Capricorn, part of my Sag Cap cusp. Brighthawk, and it honestly, that Brighthawk also has, and it honestly blows me away and makes a lot of sense. I think and that's the funny thing about cusp, is when I talk to people that are more cuspy, that are on a cusp, they often are like, well, I mean, I kind of identify with that, but not completely.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like, I think that's the importance of cusps. Some people don't believe in cusps. Some people don't count the cusp. Some people are sort of not against, but they don't really do.
They do
cusps.
Traditional.
Yeah. But I think the cusps apply. All right.
I sure do. I was resistant, to be perfectly honest. I wanted to be more Sag than Cap because I thought Sag was the happy sign. Everybody talks about how fun-loving we are. And Capricorn is much more serious and ruled by Saturn and much more business-minded and that kind of thing. And it's just real good to recognize when you have cusps going on that, especially when you're listening to a horoscope, it's not going to be accurate for you if you're at 29 degrees, because the house they're going to be talking about is not going to be applied to you. So that's why I always listen to what Capricorn, especially relative to the house, how it's going to reflect. I think that you can't ignore cusps. I think it also speaks to, have you ever met somebody who has so many choices they don't know what to do? You know, that's a big part of sales and marketing, isn't it? How many choices are, wow, this is great, I have so many choices, versus, oh my God, this is too many choices. And again, in astrology, the Libra is good. They're the person who goes shopping, and they can't, you know, even if they walk in and see the thing they like, they have to walk around the entire store before they can come back to the thing they saw immediately and knew that was what they wanted.
I'm a Libra, dude. I do it all the time.
Sag, I'm the archer. I'll go straight for something.
And then
I won't even realize, like, people are waiting in line. I just go for it. I don't even, duh. You know, there's that part of me that can be the Sages are known for their impulsivity, are we can blurt stuff out with, hopefully it can be funny, but I've seen many a Sag blurt things out, myself included, where later you're like, oh, don't do that, and it just fell out, right? It falls out of your mouth, and then later you're like, oh man, I hope I didn't offend. It's great when it's funny, but if it's offensive, it's not good. I used to really sit on this part of me.
Mm-hmm. So Bianca said, I learned through ChatGPT that my son had major Pluto transit going on around the time of his death. And that's probably true, Bianca. Usually when we look at death, we try to look for 3 different things. And the planets mostly involved in death are often Pluto, the nodes, the moon, the sun, and sometimes Uranus, especially in accidents or sudden death. Okay. So those are usually, and sometimes Saturn. And sometimes it's about the rulership of the sign. So, it gets kind of complicated, gets kind of messy in there, but those are some tips for you.
And by the way, the Sag Cap cusp is the cusp of prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
Blending the characteristics of both signs.
Okay. Now, if we take a look at our horoscope for this week, okay. So we're going to start with Aries. This is going to be like Friday, mostly Friday. It could definitely happen Thursday. You could be dealing with it Thursday night, but I imagine that it's going to be like that pot of boiling water on Thursday, and then Friday it's going to really boil over. Okay. So Friday is really what I'm talking about, even though this says Thursday, because it's going to kind of brew overnight. Okay. And because the void of course moon ends at 1:00 in the morning on Friday. So even if you're up in the middle of the night, yes, 1:00 in the morning Mountain Time. So whatever that converts to in your time zone. Okay. So this horoscope is for Aries, sun, moon, and rising. Now, Aries, this opposition is going to be very much about your identity. It's going to be very much about your identity and what is fair and what is not fair. And you could very much feel like things are not being fair. And I think that if you learn to speak in a good way, that you could really deliver it in a good way. So try to stay calm, Aries. I feel like there could be some injustices that you might be dealing with, especially in relation to your identity, your personal identity, maybe with relationships of some sort. That could be any relationships, not necessarily just romantic relationships. This could be siblings or friends or neighbors or parents or anything like that, or anyone that you're in relation with, okay, including your romantic relationships. And maybe it'd be more than one person, okay? And so just be aware that there could be some conflict coming up for you on Thursday into Friday, and it'd probably be brewing sort of overnight, okay? And then once you get to Friday, it'll probably boil over a little bit, and it'll have something to do with your own personal identity, but it will be bringing things together in relation to your values and the collective, and it is for the good. It's for the good of all, okay? So just hang in there, Aries. Try to work on the communication part, since Mercury will be retrograde. It could have something to do with maybe with your children or other people's children, in relation to people you know. There could be some conflict about what you're saying or how you're saying it. So maybe look up some nonviolent communication methods and have that ready for Friday. Okay, so Friday would be a really good day to be prepared. Make sure that morning you do your astrology, you do your yoga or meditation or whatever you do to help regulate your emotions. Okay, so that's for Aries. Now, this next horoscope is for Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. Taurus, this is going to be happening for you in something to do with your day-to-day life. So whatever's happening with your day-to-day life, like maybe it could have to do with work or whatever you do day-to-day. And it could very much have something to do with hospitals or institutions or things that are hidden, especially like maybe you didn't even know it was going to happen. Maybe you weren't aware of some things going on, and it will probably affect your day-to-day life, Taurus. It will probably affect how you see things and how you live. So just be aware of that conflict going on there. There is a conflict, but it will serve the greater good of all, especially in relation to your career and your identity. So Taurus, just hang in there. I know you're not big on these changes, but sometimes conflict has to happen in order to make some resolution. So Taurus, just hang in there, especially in relation to your day-to-day life, and maybe something that's hidden or self-sabotage, something like that. Okay. We consider self-sabotage to be hidden. All right, Taurus. All right. This horoscope is now for Gemini, Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. This is a horoscope for Gemini. Gemini, you are going to be struggling with matters of relationships and work. Maybe there's some sort of choice you have to make. Maybe there's something about relationships, especially romantic relationships or your children. Maybe there's some big choices you're going to be making. And with this big choice, it's a big conflict, but it will be the better for everyone. It will be better for everyone in the end. It will do good things for everyone. And this will help a lot of things to come together on Friday and help improve things. So try not to worry about it too much, Gemini. With this conflict, it could really kind of set you off or be surprising to you because Uranus is there. But I think it's going to come together in a good way. It will be for the better of everyone, but there will be some sort of conflict with the system. Okay. So there will be a conflict with the system. It's probably going to have to do with like people that have power or control over you, and maybe in relation to your romantic relationships or children or things that you create. So this is like, that's why we say children or things you create, because that includes like projects or books or things that you've created. Okay, Gemini? And next, this is a horoscope for Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Cancer. This is going to have a lot to do with your home and your work in the world. Okay. So your work in the world could become, maybe there's some sort of conflict at home or something that's happening at home in relation to the system and your job or your work, like maybe directly with your work. And, you might find yourself in some sort of conflict with the system or with the system at work. And so when that's happening, I'm just going to encourage you to just take it slow, Cancer. Take it slow. Try not to overreact and just try to take it one step at a time and see how it unfolds, because in the end it will be for everyone's benefit. Okay? So that would be that's on Friday. Okay. And next is for Leo. This is for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Leo, you're having some major conflict in relation to your community and the people around you and what's happening in those regards. Maybe there's a lack of fairness or a lack of seeing things or a lack of and it could be also that there has something to do with higher learning or learning altogether, and that being a challenge for you. And I think that with Mars in opposition to that Saturn and Neptune, that creates a real struggle here. That creates a challenge with Mars and Saturn, Neptune opposite. It's going to be a challenge, yes, but it's going to bring together relationships and while you might have some surprises about in regards to the people, like your friends maybe, or the people over you or whatever, it will be for the benefit of all in the end. Okay. It will make things come together in a good way. Things will end in a good way. But I think for Leo, I think this could be rather difficult, challenging with Mercury in retrograde. I feel like you might have a hard time expressing yourself, Leo. You might have a hard time understanding completely or comprehending, but just allow it to unfold and do your best to try not to explode, and just allow things to unfold as slowly as they can. Try not to speed through things, but you'll have some idea of what's happening by Friday, okay? And maybe even into Saturday, you'll probably be feeling better, okay? So that's for Leo. And now this next horoscope is for Virgo. This is for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Virgo, this is going to have everything to do with money for you. What is the challenge in money and in relation to money? And maybe there's some parts of you, maybe other people's money, maybe in relation to the system and other people's money, or anything that has to do with like death or sex or taxes, any of those kinds of things, especially in relation to the system and your money. So there could be some sort of conflict with the government, especially with like money and taxes. You know, did you pay everything? And you know, whatever comes up, Virgo, I encourage you to just take it slow. It will work itself out in the end. It will come together easily. There will be a conflict with the system, but I think that you'll be able to resolve it in a good way that will work for you, that will be beneficial to you in the end. Especially, it could really help you actually with your career. It could actually help with some surprises around work. Maybe some things will get a little bit easier. Hey, you never know what's going to happen, Virgo. Maybe you'll get a raise or something. Okay. But there could be some sort of conflict that could push on this. And it's just trying to push you in the right direction. Okay. And the next, this is for Libra. Libra, this is for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Libra, this is going to have everything to do with maybe self-sabotage. Maybe there's a part of you that tends to sabotage things. Maybe there's a part of you in your identity, Libra, but this will have a lot to do with who you attract and relationships, maybe with father, and other things like that that could create conflict, especially around your identity and what kind of struggle that might be for you. And with it all in a trine to everything, and the Mars on your in Libra, I feel like there could be some like passive aggressive. Be careful not to do any passive aggressive type behaviors. You know, Mars in Libra isn't exactly direct always. Sometimes if you corner them, a Mars in Libra will come out swinging, but often there's a lot of passive aggressive that happens first. And so if there's passive aggression going on during the void of course moon on like Wednesday, Thursday, and then by the time you get to Friday, it's probably going to explode. Okay. So try to do everything you can to try not to let it explode. Maybe try to use some nonviolent communication or some other ways to sort of manage that energy. But I think overall, it will lead you to good places. Sometimes, like I always say, conflict has to happen in order for things to change. I mean, do humans change in any other circumstances? Not usually. Okay, so that's for Libra. Next, we have Scorpio. This is for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Scorpio, this is going to have everything for you to do with people that have power over you or influence over you in relation to children. Okay. So there could be some sort of conflict with children. I'm already laughing because I'm a Scorpio moon and I already know what this is all about. It happened this morning, frankly, at like, about 9 a.m. I know exactly what it is. And 9 a.m. Mountain Time. 11 for my grandchild. But, you know, with Mars in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, this is going to put us in conflict with the system. But in the end, I think it will come together in a good way, which is relieving for me. And hopefully I'm like sitting here thinking, should I send this broadcast to my son? Anyway, so, you know, with Pluto in opposition to Mercury, at the top of your sky, Scorpio, this could have to do with like your spirituality, and what you and the collective and what you think is good. And there could be some stalling or some questioning of things. But don't worry, because I think in the end it will work out in a good way. And I think all things will come together in a good way. Okay. In the end, I think it will work out, but I think there could definitely be some sort of conflict. Okay. Yeah, and I'm already laughing because it's already happened for us. And now we just have to watch it unfold this week. And now this is for Sagittarius. Yeah. So if you've already had something happen, it's probably going to be the theme for the week. Okay. Now, so this horoscope is for Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. Sagittarius, this is going to have everything to do with your career and your work and what you offer the world, and in relation to your home. How is your home? And, you know, is there something that you need to change about your home? Is there something that you've been reviewing about home? Okay. Or maybe something that needs to come up, because the 4th house is where Saturn and Neptune are, and they've been kind of asking you to review for quite some time. So a conflict could come up in relation to that. And it could have something to do with your job or your work, and both of those two in conflict together. So somehow that conflict will end up pushing you in the right direction. So, you know, when the conflict happens, Sag, I'm just going to suggest that maybe you just slow down and think, you know, go out in the woods, go do whatever you do, because I'm sure you do something. You probably, you know, have a beer or smoke a joint or whatever it is you do, Sag. And I'm just going to suggest that you take that moment to, you know, to really think about it, and really think about what is important to you, and, you know, what your home is and what you want your home to be. Because I can see that Saturn and Neptune are transiting the 4th house. It could also have to do with like your family of origin or the family you came from. Okay. Or your home, like the home you grew up in. Okay. So that's for Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. And the next is for Capricorn. This is for Capricorn. This is a horoscope for Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising. Just going to back it up a little bit here. Capricorn, you're going to have a spiritual awakening. I'm just going to say it's going to happen for you. And it's going to happen in a really big way. And I would not be surprised if you just have this huge, which I'm laughing because this is my grandson. He's a Capricorn. You're going to have a huge spiritual awakening. You're just going to become completely aware of your community, what community you belong in, and that, you know, how you interact with that community and how it interacts with you. It's really going to be a big learning lesson for you. You're really going to learn something. And with the Capricorn full moon, the Capricorn void moon, I'm sorry, there could be some time where like some downtime, maybe you're feeling a little down, maybe you even get a little depressed with that void moon and Cap. But then once it moves into Aquarius, I feel like you might try to express yourself. It might not go really well, but I think as the moon moves through Aquarius, you'll realize how important it is for the whole collective and the impact it will have on the collective, and how this transit will change the way you see the world, which I'm like kind of like certainly saying, yeah, my son does need to know this. It will change the way you see the world, Capricorn, because this is a huge transit for you. Mars is in opposition to Saturn. Saturn's your ruling planet. It's going to be a big deal, okay? And with the void moon in your sign, you're gonna feel this, Capricorn. I'm just telling you, you're gonna feel it. This is going to be a conflict with you in the system, but in the end, it's going to lead you to a good place. So try not to get too caught into it. Try not to get too emotional. Not that I have to say that to you, Capricorn, but just be aware that, this is going to bring big changes, and you will have huge lessons from this because Mars is in your house of higher learning. Okay. Spiritual awakenings, higher learnings, awarenesses. So it's really, really good. I'm glad. Frankly, I'm really, really glad. Okay. Next we have Pluto. This is for Pluto, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And this will have a lot to do with your shadow. Aquarius, this is going to poke at your shadow. It's going to poke at the part of you that is connected to other people's money, that is connected to death and sex and other things you don't want to talk about. You're going to have to talk about it. Okay. I know you don't want to handle it. I know you don't want to deal with it, but you're going to have to. Okay. And as you're dealing with that, it's probably going to be about other people's money. I'm pretty sure it's going to be about that. Or it's going to have something to do with your internal values, Aquarius. And with Pluto in that sign, you are due for changes anyway. And with the moon moving in there on Friday, it's a full moon. So you're probably likely to have huge intuitive downloads, huge intuitive awarenesses and insights into exactly what you need to be doing in relation to that money conflict. So there probably will be some sort of money or value conflict going on here. And with that Mars in the 8th house, I just feel like that's, and because it's going to be in conflict with Saturn over in the 2nd house, which is the house of money. And in the 8th house is the house of conflict. And it's also in relation to other people's money, because it's usually about anything you don't want to talk about. Well, Aquarius, you're probably going to have to talk about it. Okay. This is going to be some sort of action or something that's going to happen around that. Okay. Next is Pisces. This is for Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Pisces, this is going to have everything to do with your relationship to the system, your personal relationship to the system, and relationships. Okay. So it doesn't have to be romantic relationships. It could absolutely be your children, your siblings, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your grandparents, your neighbors. Okay. Any relationships, people you work with, any kind of relationships, including, your relationship with the system. Okay. Especially your personal relationship with the system. I feel like with Saturn and Neptune retrograde in Aries, that is going to have you really, because Saturn and Neptune are headed back to your sign, Pisces. And right now the North Node is in Pisces, trying to put you on your path. So just take time to listen, take time to tap in, take time, because that full moon is going to be in your 12th house. So you might not see it coming. It might be coming out sort of from, a side door or whatever that you didn't see. So Pisces, especially the emotional part of it or the intuitive part of it on Friday. So just hang in there. It's going to be okay. Just know that it's all going to be good in the end, and that when it comes down to the end of it all, it will work out for everyone. Okay. It will be this conflict will be in light of progress. It will I really believe that this conflict will lead us to progress. Okay. All right.
Wow. Amazing. Incredible.
Kiki said, will men be nicer to women? That's a big transit, Kiki. That's a huge transit. Maybe right now with Venus in Cancer, possibly. Okay. And Melissa said, I hate conflict. Are you a Libra, Melissa? You must be a Libra. Alyssa said, my late hubby was a Scorpio moon. I listened to his also, especially when it talks about his children. I don't always put a lot of weight on it, but I do keep it in mind with the rest of the horoscopes. I'm kind of like that too, Alyssa. I will listen to other people's usually my son and my grandchildren, because those are the people that I interact with the most, other than Bright Hawk, of course. And so usually I listen to like of course, Bright Hawk and I listen to our horoscopes together. And then we will often listen to, like, you know, oh, what will it be for Capricorn? My grandson's a Capricorn, or Aries, or whatever. And we'll pay attention to that, just so. And sometimes I will text my son and give him a little heads up. Yep. Which sounds like they need one. Oh, Melissa's a Scorpio. But Melissa, what's your rising sign? What's your moon sign? Because your sun sign means very little. All right. So I'm going to pull these 3 cards. Melissa, did you get your guidebook? Do you know what your big 3 are?
I was just going to say, if you need any help figuring out what we're talking about when we say the big 3, sun, moon, and rising, everybody knows their sun sign. It really helps if you know your birth time. Then we can get very specific about what the stars were saying when you were born. It's very helpful information. But if you don't have that information, it's not the end of the world. And an astrologer like Hollis is very good at a thing called rectification, which is when we look at you, your facial features, and ask some questions, and we figure out, rectify what your rising might be based on those answers to those questions.
Mm-hmm. Melissa, you have the book. You got this book, the Guide to Your Own Astrology. So then you should know your big 3. And it's not going to, Pluto is a planet, not a zodiac sign. So you should also, so if you follow the directions in that book, it will tell you how to find your sun, moon, and rising. And you just get the circle chart, which, you know, looks a lot like this. And you look for the sun, which is the circle with the dot in it. The moon is the one that looks like the moon, right? And the rising is over here. And this little symbol here is a zodiac. And you can easily look on that that document that you got from me, and it says what zodiac symbol is each one. So it's, you know, it's pretty easy to understand. And once you know your big 3, then those are the 3 horoscopes that you need to check in on every week. Okay. So then you'll have a good idea of what your week will be like. Hi, Bobby.
And after 30, honestly, your rising is even more important than your sun sign. It really speaks to how your soul, what you came in with, some of what you're here to do, and how you're growing into who you're becoming. And so that's part of why we really emphasize knowing those. And of course, your moon helps you understand what your emotional landscape is. And if you have a Cancer moon and you haven't gotten yourself a moon app on your phone to tell you where the moon is every day, you are not doing yourself any favors. You probably think that you're moody. You probably think that you're, you know, dramatic or whatever. The thing about a Cancer moon, Cancers are very intelligent. They're very family oriented, and they feel very deeply, but they're not usually very good at recognizing what they're feeling until it's like coming out of their mouth and they're shouting, "Oh, I guess I'm angry."
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I really encourage, there's a number of free or very cheap, not much money at all, moon apps that you put your information in.
Yeah, I think that we pay like $2 a year.
Yeah, right. It's just so little.
It's
really helpful. You're like, oh, that's what's going on today. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty good app, and it will tell you, like, you know, it will base it on your birthday and pay attention for you. Melissa, you could be moody for a lot of reasons. There could be a lot of different things, you know. Sun and moon could be conjunct in your chart. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that you're gonna I'm glad to hear that you're gonna get the grid thing. I am trying to release the information on that. It's just Mercury retrograde. It's slowing me down. I've run into little bumps and stuff like that. But what we're going to be doing, guys, what Melissa is talking about is, so Bright Hawk makes these beautiful crystal grids. And I'm sure there we go. And so these beautiful crystal grids are hand painted by her. She goes out in the woods and collects the trees that have fallen and slices them into these like kind of cookies, which if you turn it just a little sideways, you can see it's pretty thick. It's a thick piece of wood, and she, you know, stains it and clears it out and gets it ready for you. And then she'll paint it. So like if you ordered one today, she would start painting that for you, and you would pick what. You can get one that's already made, or you can or you can get one like sort of, you can custom build whatever you want on there that Bright Hawk agrees that she could paint on there. And she has some ways of doing some things. And I feel like sometimes she uses a little bit of
the moon.
Yeah, there we go. There's a beautiful, this would be great for somebody that was like a Cancer moon or something like that. It's a really good one for the moon. And of course, this is a Om flower to help you sort of Om. And so usually one side is a little bit more grounding and one side is a little bit more like intuitive to help you raise your vibration. And then I will do an astrology reading for you. So you'll get a package where you get a crystal grid, an astrology reading, and then I'll pick out stones for you based on your astrology chart. And then you'll get these crystals and you can use them in conjunction with the crystal grid, and both of them together will help you manifest your most authentic self, help you create amazing
the life you want.
In fact, we already had a friend of ours order one, and she just contacted us and she wanted a crystal grid anyway, and I had already done an astrology reading for her. So we went ahead and I looked at her stones, and I know what she's up to. So I just kind of picked out her stones for her and sent it to her. And she was like, oh my God, I set the stones out in the sunshine to clear, and already things are manifesting in my life. It's like as soon as it landed in her lap, it was like her life was ready to manifest. And she's been waiting for like that whole riding deal that she wanted, like the horseback riding thing. She's been waiting for a particular teacher, I think for like 3 or 4 years. She was talking about it way back in Unite. So I think that's like 4 years. And so it's a long time, and she's finally got the teacher that she wanted, and she's finally manifested what she wanted. So I'm just saying, it's really important to her. And, so Melissa said, I remembered it was a grid instead of calling it the Woody thing. And it sounds like Melissa really enjoys the turtle one.
Oh, cool.
And then, okay. And Alyssa said, oh, I definitely feel in my rising sign more in the last 22 months, massive personal transformation. And it's really coming out strong now. Yeah. As far as being over 30 and the rising sign thing you mentioned. Absolutely. It's hilarious. It's kind of strange how much your rising sign, you really like sort of rise into your sign, right?
This is the turtle one.
This is the turtle one. So, all right.
And then the other side.
I believe this one is taken. I'm trying to get that packaged up. Okay. But she can do another turtle. I can always
make it again.
She's
I'm
painted
pretty good at that one.
She's painted that turtle a few times. We had like a little painting in our bathroom of the turtle. I think it's cute with the little bubbles and everything. I just think it's adorable. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Thanks.
All right. So we're doing 3-card pool now. And this first card is about this is the 5 of Swords. This is very much about conflict and fighting things that you're not aware of, self-sabotage or other conflicts that you weren't even aware were going to happen. You had no awareness of it. No, you just didn't know. It sort of came out of nowhere. And that's what this is about. This is about, or fighting unseen forces. Okay. And so this is very much about the conflict that you've come through in the past. And so you've come through this conflict. And then right now, you're going to tap into the resources that you have and be ready to use those resources to get what you need. This is the 9 of Pentacles, is very much about using your resources to the best of your ability, being on stage and maybe being in the spotlight and bringing that forward. That's what the 9 of Pentacles is all about. And then the 4 of Swords is very much about most of the work being done. So this is like by the end of the week, most of the work is being done, but there's still this one thing that's kind of lingering that needs to be addressed. But, you won't be able to address it for some reason right away. It probably won't get addressed until next week. And so that's probably that Mercury directly across from Pluto that will happen next week. And so that's probably when it will be completely resolved sometime in the next week or so. Or when as Mars makes its transit through Libra. Okay. And so like I said, so in the past, you have this conflict that you've been dealing with. It was like some sort of conflict of unseen forces. Maybe you're been in conflict with something you didn't even know, or self-sabotage, or anything like that. Anything that's sort of like 12th house, like with unseen forces. Okay. And then as you're going forward, this is very much about using your resources to the best of your ability to get what you need and want. And as you're going forward, be aware that the work will mostly be done. The work will mostly be done. And you'll just have this one thing you have to address that will be very important. But otherwise, you will be able to get the work done by the end of the week. Okay?
Wow. That's great. It's amazing how the cards always reflect the astrology. It's always so interesting.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, I really appreciate all the conversation and the comments. It's been really great interacting with everybody. Have we answered everyone's questions?
I think so. I think we have. And welcome, Cheryl. And just seeing you now, and glad you're here. Glad you stopped in. Definitely check out the Gemini thing. You might want to know about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So rewind and listen to the Gemini horoscope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Virgo horoscope. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well, I hope you all have a great week. Have a beautiful full moon blessing. And as Mars moves into Libra, may everything come around right. May you have a great week. Thanks for listening to Rainbow Soulstrology. Putting a few likes in there. Subscribe, I hope. Most of you probably already are subscribers, I hope. And thank you. We really appreciate you. Thanks for listening to Rainbow Soulstrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks so much for spending time with us this week. We hope you're feeling more connected to the cosmic energies in your life and what works for you. We send you lots of love on your journey. If you enjoyed today's show, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps reach more people who could use some cosmic guidance. Hey, and don't forget to share this episode with anyone who might need or want to hear it. And we love hearing from you, so drop us a comment and let us know what resonated most for you, or if you'd like to hear something new next week. Your questions and feedback make us better. Want to join us live? Subscribe! Catch us on Facebook and YouTube. And that's where you can ask real-time questions and be part of the Rainbow Soulstrology community while it happens. Until next week, trust your intuition, follow your inner wisdom, and remember, the stars are always supporting your journey. Thanks for listening to Rainbow Soulstrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars.